You can chat your questions in underneath of the stream, and it'll come to us coaches. We'll be able to answer those questions. If you're here with us live, thank you so much. Love to be able to see you guys. Love to be able to interact with you through the call. Please raise your hands if you have a question or a success story or anything like that. We want to help. You can also chat your questions in on the live Zoom stream feed as well. But I would love to get some verbal interaction and maybe some face-to-face interaction with a few of you guys as well today. If you have a question and you're here on Zoom, I want you to go down to the reactions button at the bottom of the Zoom screen and raise your hand. Careful, because when you click the reactions button, there's one button that says raise your hand and another one that shows clapping hands. If you clap, I'll think that you're applauding me, and I will not call on you. So if you're going to raise your hand, make sure that you actually raise your hand so that I can call on you. Let's see what else. My normal spiel has escaped my head. Let's see if we can go to Angela really quickly. Angela, it's been a little while since I talked to you. Are you available? If you are, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'm here. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Angela, if I could do a brief introduction. I called Angela this week to refer a listing to her, and I start off by telling her this guy has really been through the ringer. He's probably going to tell you his life story, and he's going to need some empathy. And she told me this story, and I think she is the professor of empathy. She's working on a deal that is extraordinary. And also, Angela, at some point, if you would just kind of go back to 2018 and share your overall experience with the probate leads so far.
Sure, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think in this role, empathy puts it lightly. I think you're a therapist, you're a social worker, you're just a Swiss Army knife. Anyway, I met this girl, her name is Sharon, and she basically called me from the mailing. I mean, I just really hadn't called her yet. Immediately back in August, she reached out. So I made a time to go meet with her at the property. And, you know, it's in a neighborhood in Atlanta that's very, their East Lake Golf Club is not far. It's gentrifying quickly. Property values are through the roof. And anyway, long story short, I got to get over there and talk with her, and she didn't want me to go inside. I said, okay, that's fine. Tell me what's going on. So she proceeded to say that her grandmother, this was her house, and had passed 5 years ago without a will. And she had filed to be administrator. In the meantime, I kept looking at this girl, and it's like, she is so sharp, but she can't be very old. Well, it turns out she's 24. And there was another heir living in the house that was contesting it also. So long story short, the court awarded her the administrator, but gave her no rights to sell the property because it was contested. So what come to find out, so not only was she living in this house with a 5-year-old girl, her daughter, her grandmother had 5 children. The daughters were both deceased, one of which was her mother, one was her aunt. The 3 uncles were living there. I would say they're probably between 60 and 70 years old. And it was just a sad situation. I mean, the house was complete disrepair. One of the uncles had turned it into a boarding house. There were about 9 people living there, people living on the porch, people living in the living room. It was just an awful situation. So as I got to know her better, I tried to connect her with a lot of different social services. Well, maybe think about this or this. Is when she became administrator, everybody was upset. They're like, oh, you're not selling this house. We don't want to sell. We don't agree. And the investor I had lined up all along, I've known him forever. We used to be business partners in another venture years ago, building houses. He's like, no, I'll help. Just, you got to stay patient in this situation. So this is still August. So just kind of kept up with her. Throughout the process, she was just completely intimidated by these folks, threatened. And the reason why, a lot of the uncles, sadly, were drug addicts. And again, I just tried desperately to show her, okay, there are other options, there are places we can go. Let's talk to this service. But she was afraid to leave. She's like, oh, well, I'm in charge. I can't leave. And I just deep down was worried about her safety more than anything. So anyway, but she didn't get the permission to sell. What happens in Georgia, you have to file, if you're an administrator with no rights to sell real estate, you file what's called petition for leave to sell property. So I basically would go down to the courthouse with her because one thing I did learn from other clients, you keep in touch with the clerks, get face-to-face time with you. They'll help you as much as they can. They can't do legal advice, but you get to know them, they will help you, and they're just great. So I said, I'd like to see the process, just keep in front of them. So we went down and filed. And of course, there are 6 heirs, again, she died without a will. So the law here in Georgia says, okay, this is how it's going to be split. She put all the heirs down. And of course, verbally, none of them said we're not selling, but they really didn't have a choice and there was nowhere to go. So the sheriff came, served them all. They all signed except for one. They agreed to sell. The one that didn't sign had a warrant out for his arrest and ran down the street when he saw the sheriff come. So anyway, the deadline passed for any objections. Oh, it gets better. So deadline passed. She got a note from the court saying, okay, this is the last step. You need to get a bond. And just the desperate situation, I knew the bond company would ask her to have an attorney just because of the value of the house, even as a dilapidated tear down. Unfortunately, it was still worth like $250,000 to $300,000 in this neighborhood. So that's kind of what happened. And I leaned back on an attorney that I have a good working relationship with, and the investor wanting to buy the property kind of put our heads together and said, okay, well, can you help us give this one legal caveat to go down, let's get this bond done, let's get it done, let's get this sold, because this is really kind of getting her out of this generational poverty that she's been stuck in, to be honest with you. So we said, okay, let's just make arrangements. But then the whole situation has just been ugly. She did the eviction, started evicting people. And the first person she evicted, I think I said, he died of a drug overdose like the next day. So it was it just kept getting uglier and uglier. And again, the whole time I just always had this feeling in the pit of my stomach, like something bad is going to happen over there. So anyway, I was visiting family in the Midwest and my phone rings and it's this girl at 10 o'clock at night. And it was 11 o'clock here Eastern time. Oh, maybe she just accidentally dialed me, and she kept calling. And finally I got her on the phone and she's crying hysterically and screaming. And I'm like, oh God, what's going on? Well, it turns out the house burned down, and her uncle died. One of the uncles died. And, it's all being still investigated right now. But she told me, and her brother told me, that basically the uncle that passed away, his girlfriend, he got into a fight and she lit a paper towel on fire with some kind of incendiary device on it, threw it on the bed, and the whole house just erupted in flames. They all got out alive except for the uncle. Apparently from my contact, there is also being investigated, so I can't speculate. But anyway, it just got worse. So everybody fled. I called and I was again not in town. I didn't see it. It was all over the news the next day. Tried to help her out with a GoFundMe. Just, she got a $500 credit from like the Red Cross, but that only lasts like a couple of days. So, and they had no insurance on the house. I mean, it just kept getting worse and worse. And when she called me and we talked the next morning, she's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to sell the house. I said, you are, but I don't know if it's going to be, because she filed, the court asked her, the advice she got from an attorney, file this petition to sell based on the tax value, not an offer in hand, just do it on the tax value. That's the safest way to do it. So I said, I honestly don't know if it's still worth the tax value, and let me go have this investor I have look at it. And he drove by. He's done fire sales with me before, so he's seen everything. He's like, nope, I can do this. Let's do it. Let's stick to it. Wrote the contract, got it binding, did everything. And then had him, and also the situation there, again, there were 9 people living in this house. And our biggest fear was they were all going to come back and try to get in or do worse damage. So we got our heads together and said, you need to board this property up now. She gave him 3 days notice, get in there and get your stuff out, whatever you want is being boarded up. So it got boarded up, and we, took care of the bond. We're just still waiting on a court order. And in the meantime, one of the uncles that had given her a lot of trouble, he found an attorney. I don't know if it's through legal aid or somebody here, but when she went to file the bond, the court gave her an update saying, well, we're reviewing your bond and we're also reviewing this submission. So he went to legal aid and filed a restraining order against her. Basically, he thought she sold the house because it was boarded up, and was trying to sue her, but she doesn't even have rights to sell the house yet from the court. So it's just sad. You just, she's the strong, I mean, for this girl, she's 24 years old. I said, you've lived more lives than anybody I've ever met. And that you to go through all this, we're still not done. You have a heck of a story to tell. So, yeah, that's about the crux of it. It's still, and there's a lot more details I won't even go into, but you just don't know who you're going to meet on a daily basis and what their story is.
And Angela, my understanding is your investor is still going to buy it for the same price after the fire?
Yep. Because the property values over there, honestly, they're so high. He's like, I can make it work. But he's a good guy anyway. I'm very careful about the investor, nothing against investors, but in this situation, like I could not even imagine going back and having to change the court paperwork that she had already filed. And she didn't have the money to retain an attorney. I said, you know what, John, just if you'll just buy it for this, but even the property value, the way it was, he's going to do okay. So, but I just like partnering with people who are like-minded like that. Yes, investors sometimes get a bad rap, but he's always the first to step up and try to help somebody. So
that's awesome. I think you better close quick before
we're trying. We're waiting on the judge's order. Can't do anything without the judge's order. He's like, I'm ready to go. Well, we're not. So.
That's quite great. And I know people may have questions about that particular deal, but it's just so impressive with the way you hung in there with it. And if you would go back to 2018 and tell me what you told about your experience with probate so far.
No, absolutely. So I will actually credit the same investor. This is kind of why I signed up, because he used to be a loose business partner with new construction that we were doing with an LLC back before, 2008. And when I first got my license, I've been in real estate forever since then on the investing side. But when I got my license, he said, well, just, find me a house off market. I'll buy it. Then when I flip it, you can list it. I really didn't understand how to find a house off market. So I started taking a lot of investor courses, and, they teach you all the different ways of finding people and approaching people. And the one thing I've always loved to work with seniors, and I've had a lot of senior clients and a lot of seniors that lived on my street at the time. So that kind of led into, finding probate companies. And so that's kind of how I found you all. Just, again, I listen to the podcasts like this. What do I do? How do I start? And just kind of follow the process. All right. And I know you need consistency. I have an advertising background. You never do anything once and know that it works or doesn't work. So just started there. And it really just is, it took a few months to get going, but once it did, I'm still in touch with these families. They talk to me, they talk to their relatives. And I've, had gone in and bid on a listing. I might not have gotten a listing on the probate house, but I've gotten business just from being present in front of these folks. So it's a great tool to expand your greater network with people. So especially when they see you're trying to help them.
These really rough situations like this girl is going through and you're guiding her through, this is part of why so many of you guys and Angela, this is part of why you do this. People that would be completely lost if you weren't there helping them. And absolutely. As you said, you wear a lot of hats. You're part therapist, you're part realtor, you're part investor, you're part
social worker.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything, whatever you do without a license, basically.
Yep.
And from that standpoint, with our value proposition is we help people with the personal property, we can help with the real property and all the other challenges that will come up along the way, because we know that they will. And we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but if we can lead them through the situation, we can get them to where they want to be.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Angela, thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else to share? Any questions from Angela?
Oh, for me, I don't have any questions. I'm happy to answer.
You've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Excellent, guys. Well, thank you, Angela. Thanks, Jim, for bringing Angela on. It's always good to hear stories. If you're new, don't let that scare you. That's not the norm, but there are always unusual situations that pop up. And if you like figuring things out and problem solving, that's what this business is all about. And it's the reason that you will get business and that you will grow and that you will become known in this niche is because you become a problem solver for people. And sometimes you're solving the problem of finding a landscaper to go cut the grass. And other times you're solving the problem of figuring out how to deal with a house that burned down. So guys, be a problem solver, become a linchpin in your community that people can't deal without, and you will have no shortage of business, and people will truly value what you bring to the table in their lives. So with that said, I want to go to Lou first, and then Alex. Alex, I see your chatted question. I'll just have you ask that question live here in a moment as soon as we get to Lou. Lou, if you would, let's go ahead and have you unmute yourself. What do you got for us today?
Hey guys, I'm pretty new, but I have started making some calls, and I appreciate all the help that you guys always put in. But I have a question. Can you hear me? Yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so I started making some calls, and I ran into a out of town. I'm in Florida, and I ran into an out of town PR who she was asking me about charging the estate. Like I don't know, we started talking about something, and she asked me, and I said, the PR, because she was like complaining that it was a lot, and she was having a hard time doing it out of state and everything. And she wanted to know what's the charge for, can she charge the estate for doing the work? And then how much could she charge? And would she be taxed on that amount of money if she is able to charge? Would it be a taxable income? And then the final part is how would she go about kind of setting that up if she did want to place a charge on the estate?
Mm-hmm. Is there an attorney involved?
Yes.
Okay, so the attorney can help set that up. I just did a quick Google search. Absolutely, the answer is absolutely. She can charge the estate, 100%. The Google, which may or may not be accurate, says that in Florida, if the estate is worth $1 million or less, they can charge 3%, 2.5% if it's between $1 million and $5 million, and 2% if it's between 5 and 10 million. So executors should be able to charge. Now that's Google. That could be wildly inaccurate. I don't want you quoting those numbers to her, but she can charge and basically receive pretty much what the equivalent of like a real estate commission might be for us. So and I encourage a lot of executors and executrixes to charge the estate. Some of them don't want to do it because their family gets a little bit bent out of shape. Many PRs don't charge the estate. Sometimes it's because they don't know that they can. Other times they just don't want to create waves with family members, but they can. And in my opinion, they probably should.
Now,
the last part of that
is it's definitely taxable income.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Yeah, I'm not a tax expert, but income is taxable. You can't have it both ways.
so so she would be taxed on it, right? Like it would be just like a normal income for her, and she would add it on to whatever, it would go on the tax form as income, right, on top of her job or whatever.
On the schedule, it'd be showing as other income, and you just have to cite the source.
Okay, awesome. And just the last thing, how would she go about? Oh, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that you really need to, rather than taking what we're telling you here, though, and doing all this, Bruce gave you the best advice, and it's a great opportunity for you to work that relationship. Get the name of the attorney and get her and the attorney on the same phone call. And that way you hear what he has to say and everybody's on the same page in regard to the same questions you just asked us. The amounts that Bruce stated in terms of what's available in Florida, those, I believe those are correct percentages that can be charged, but you definitely need to get with the attorney that's there. The other thing is that there are sometimes local nuances within a court, and certain judges may or may not, be happy about fees getting charged and be more difficult than others. So that attorney is going to be better able to tell you that than anybody else.
Okay, great. And do you guys so I will talk to her and see if we can get on a call with the attorney, but just since I got you guys on the line, do you know how would she start going about, like, does she have to like just keep like a log of how much time she's putting into working on the estate, or how does that work? Or does she just charge the 3% and say, I'm charging the 3% because I'm working the estate, or should she just be writing down like a schedule of, okay, I did this, I made this phone call at this time and this date, or what do you guys know about that?
Well, she doesn't have to charge 3%. She could charge less. If she's just charging a set percentage, I don't believe, now this is best asked of the attorney that you're working with or she's working with,
right?
But if it's just a set percentage, I don't believe that she needs to keep a log. Now, she absolutely needs to keep a log and run all expenses that she covers out of pocket through the attorney. Thank you, Steve Carney, for pointing that out to me. So she needs to keep a log of the expenses, but as far as getting paid profit as like an income for administering the estate, I don't think that she needs to necessarily keep a log. Please check that with the attorney before you tell her
and
that.
Bruce, not just the money she lays out, but any and all disbursements that potentially are coming out to pay bills or anything else that has to be done. That's a legal requirement of the PR. They've got to track all that. So certainly she needs to keep a ledger of any money that moves. That's the most critical piece of the job of that executor, to make sure that that's being taken care of, because those are the things that potentially get called into question.
Yep.
Did a bill get paid? Did this insurance get paid? Did this tax get paid? Did a lien get satisfied? That sort of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that the executor has a fiduciary responsibility to the heirs or the beneficiaries of the estate. So it's super important that they keep track of how much of the estate funds are dispersed and where they go and why.
Yep.
Yes.
I want to loop someone else into this conversation real quick. Steve Carney just popped his hand up. He's going through this as, I believe, an executor right now, or maybe just did. Steve, would you unmute yourself and let us know what you found out?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. I appreciate the opportunity and agree with everything Chuck said. Having worked with a probate attorney, every state's different. Every state does have a percentage, but it's based on once everything's paid. Okay, so those obligations come first. Okay, in my situation, my father named me the executor. The only heir is my sister. We set it up that way, so everything goes to her. I told my sister, I'm not taking, in New Jersey, it's 5%. I'm not taking that. However, I did check with the attorney because my father was pretty clear. He didn't want anything. He didn't want it to cost me money to settle his estate. So anything, gas, my sister and I go out to lunch while we're working through certain things. That all gets invoiced against the estate. That's not taxable. And the attorney's fine with that. I have records. Much like Tim said, all my father's bills that were outstanding tied to his name, I have a copy of that. I've paid it. And I have a laundry list of a paper trail. And that's really what the attorney wants to see more than anything else. A bank account, think pre-internet, 1990s, it's a check with a ledger. There is no debit card. There is no online app. You literally go to the bank, okay? You have to cash a check. checks that come in, like I shut down my father's bank accounts. Everything goes to my sister, but it goes to the estate account first. There's an account that's there. You set up an EIN number with the IRS, takes you about 10 minutes. Please don't get duped, because there are commercial vendors out there that say they can do it for you in less than an hour for $275. It's
Right.
free. Okay, your tax money pays for it. Don't follow it. Having that EIN number is key to set up that estate account to be able to do it. But everything is ledger, stubby pencil to work it. But you can expense it, and if you choose to take, whatever the amount is, again, I would make sure the attorney is aware of everything you're doing, and they'll probably lay out how they want you to do it. And all I was told was just have a paper trail. As long as you have a paper trail and you can explain it, you're good.
Right.
That's when you don't, that's a problem.
Yep. Perfect. Steve, thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
All right, Lou, you
All
good?
right. Yes. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it,
Awesome.
as always.
Thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
Cool.
Always good. All right. Let's jump over to Alex here real quick. Alex, go ahead.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Great.
Great. I'm pretty new, right? I'm excited about this. So I'm actually just trying to see where I can find the scripts, so I can practice and get on the phones. I'm a real estate broker, so I want to get on the phones ASAP.
Okay. I'm going to give you an outline here.
Okay.
Here's the, before I give the outline, this is a really common question that I love. Alex, thanks for coming on live and asking that. I love chatted in questions. I especially enjoy when people throw a hand up and engage with us. Makes for good content. So thank you. A lot of people ask this question, and our general statement here with all the leads is that we don't teach scripts. That's our general statement. However, if you do come through Prospecting Mastery, which is once a month, and it is a small charge for subscribers, it's like $149. If you come through that, you will get a lot of scripts, even though I prefer people to internalize and not script it. So if you want to go deep, and it's 6 hours, it's hard to just give it to you in 5 minutes. So I'm just going to give you an outline here. But it's about a 6-hour class. For those of you that haven't taken it, I highly, highly encourage it. It's packed with 5 to 6 role play sessions through the 2-day class. It's just absolutely an incredible class, if I do say so myself. All right. Now, as far as what to say on the phone, after Probate Foundations, which is at the beginning of every month, it's free. You guys can take it as often as you want, even if you're not a subscriber. At the end of Probate Foundations, I always give script openings. So I give about 4 or 5 conversation openings for probate. You guys can choose which one of the openings fits your style the most. So your opening is typically going to be about 10 to 15 seconds. Just introduce yourself, give them a little bit of a teaser of what you do, which is essentially a 1-sentence teaser of your USP that's coming. It's basically, I'm calling because I work with people that are going through the probate process. That's an example of your teaser. Move to a question. So is it okay if I share the reason for my call? Right. That's basically your opening. At that point, you want to go in and give them an overview for about another 10, 15, 20 seconds of what you do. I like to tell people to offer sort of a concierge service or a turnkey type of service for families going through probate. If you want to hit some bullet points there, go for it. It kind of depends on how detailed you want to get and how friendly the person is on the phone. If they're not friendly, if they're like, yeah, hurry up, just tell them, I offer a concierge service for families that are going through probate. We help take care of anything from real estate needs to personal property to maintenance needs. That's the gist of your presentation after your opening, of your USP after the opening. At that point, you need to turn the conversation over to them and ask them a question. They will typically give you some resistance, especially if they're early in probate. They don't know what they don't know. So if they haven't been going through this long and they have some emotion attached to a loss, they're normally going to resist what you've just offered. Go with it. No need to challenge them and question them and tell them that they're getting it wrong. No need to say, actually, you are going to need my help. That's a great way to ruin any rapport. So I want you to just sort of cave into whatever resistance they've given you, and then use that as an opportunity to pivot over to real estate. So an example of this is, no, I don't need the help that you just offered. Okay, Alex, I really appreciate that. I was hoping that you'd say that. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, just before I let you go, once probate's over, were you guys thinking about holding on to the real estate, or are you thinking about selling? All right, so you're using whatever resistance they've given you up front to validate, build rapport, and then shift to a perceived separate topic, which is real estate. All right. At this point, they're normally going to tell you what's going on with the house. Most of the time, they're going to say, yeah, we're probably going to sell, or we don't know yet. If they say we're going to sell, it's going to, they often say, but it's not, we're not doing it yet. We're not thinking about doing it right now, which is an amazing response, because if they told everyone that they were going to sell right now, you'd have tons and tons and tons of competition. So they're going to give you your time frame that you have to build credibility and rapport and build a relationship. So a lot of times, once they tell you that they're going to sell, you typically have 2, 3, 4 months to build that relationship and establish some rapport with them. And as long as you do that, nobody else is going to touch you from a competition standpoint, because they might tell 5 people the same thing. Yeah, we're going to sell, but we're not ready yet. Nobody else is going to stick with them for a few months, but you are, and you're going to get the business. All right. So that's the gist of the probate conversation. I wish it was more in the form of a script for you. Come to the prospecting mastery class if you want that to be a little bit more scripted and you want to get some practice and more nuance to that. Come to Probate Foundations at the beginning of the month if you want to just get your openings. And that'll just be in a couple of, I think it's coming up on in about a week and a half on the 1st of March. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that outline gave you a chance. I know I make it sound kind of simple. Just remember, when they reject you or resist you, go with it and use it as a chance to pivot over to the real topic, which is the real estate topic. Help? You're actually on mute. Sorry, Alex. Did that help?
Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll definitely look into that.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, let's go to Sheila. Guys, if you chatted in a question, I'm going to get to those here in just a minute. I've got Sheila's hand up. I always like hearing from my friend Sheila. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Sheila.
I think I did. Can you hear me?
You are. Yeah, we got you.
Hear me now. Okay, I've been dealing with this gentleman for well over a year. When I first contacted him, he's saying that his sister, who is also a realtor, has been trying to steal the house away from him and his brother. So I did some research, and yeah, she took out a loan on her mom's house and didn't pay it back. He says he's been paying all of the bills along the way for the house, like the electric and things like that. And then I just pulled up the tax records today, and I found something really weird that I've never seen before. And it's almost like a bank paid the taxes for the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that there's no mortgage on the house. So I don't know if he's feeding me a line or what's going on, but I've been back and forth with him for quite some time. He's told me that, when it does come time to sell the house, he wants our firm to take over the sale of it, but it's just a really weird thing. And you know, he's told me his sister has stolen boats from the house, the vehicles, she's sold them. She's under investigation in 3 different counties. So I don't know what's going on with this. I'm going to call him again today, but I just figured maybe you'd had some insight as to how I can approach it.
So did the big tax payment that appears to have come from the bank, was that all paid at once? Is that showing that it's been kind of paid a little bit each year, or just one big chunk paid in taxes?
Well, hold on for a minute. I just had it pulled up. Hold on. I can't find it now. It's oh no, it was all paid on the 12th of September of last year. And then
Okay.
it comes up as paid off. I cannot, usually I can print out a PDF of the paid bill, but it's not allowing me to pay to do that on these. Now the 2022 taxes have not been paid yet, but it was
Kind of sounds
well
like
almost $10,000 worth of taxes were paid on the 12th of September.
kind of sounds like there was a mortgage there and a bank was holding escrow. And maybe he didn't recognize that, or it was recently paid off. That's possible. How long ago did the decedent pass away?
In 2020.
Okay.
And it's still in probate.
There could
Have
have
you
been
had any conversations with your title company, maybe just to do a quick lien search on it?
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick, Angela, it sounds like it could possibly be a tax deed sale also. A lot of counties sell certificates for unpaid taxes, and eventually it could go to sale. So I agree with Chuck, have a title company run a search on it and see what's going on there.
Do you think, would they, I mean, can they do that while it's in probate?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
They can do a lien search on any property at any time.
Wow. Okay.
For the general public, there's usually a charge. My sister owns a title company. It doesn't cost them much, if anything, to do it. So if you have a relationship with the title company, they may just do it for you gratis. Worst case, maybe 25, 50 bucks. It's not going to be real expensive. But yeah, it's kind of real important you figure out what's going on there. If it was a tax sale certificate and it's been 3 years, they could apply for a deed and they could end up, getting title that way. So that's one way that it might possibly not have had a mortgage in. If it looks like a bank, it could be an investment company also that could have bought the certificate. Who knows? But yeah,
A lot of those tax lien buyers are going to be, a financial type organization, because they're just looking to turn paper into real assets and just liquidate it through an REO.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So would you recommend that I contact the PR?
After you have a conversation with your
the
title company and see if they'll run a lien search, so they can help unpack kind of what the story is on paper, because they'll be able to see what's been going on. Maybe you could even go to the your county tax office and understand, did this go through tax sale? Pick up the phone, call them, have a conversation. That's really the situation you want to dig into first. So otherwise, you're just having another conversation with the PR where you're not bringing new information to the table.
Okay. Gotcha.
If you can determine those answers, you really are bringing value. You're telling them something they didn't know. Nobody else in their family's been able to, one way or the other, whatever the answer is.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
That's a unique one, Sheila. And sorry we didn't give you the exact right answer, but it's going to take a little bit more research. And I totally agree. Title search will tell you a lot, and you got to figure out if your client has a will, and if he's telling the truth. If there's a will, that'll verify a lot of what he's saying. If there's no will,
No, there was a will. I pulled up the probate records, and the will was submitted. It's just that everything is in limbo because his sister is contesting that the brothers shouldn't get anything, but then the brothers are telling me that she's got these warrants out for her. So I'm like, well, how can she contest something in court if she's got a warrant out? Thinking to myself, there's something weird going on.
Sounds like probate.
I love probate.
One thing I would observe in this is that, you're going to do some work here and you're going to invest your time. And right now, all you have is the hope that you can get something going. And we've talked before about potentially trying to get an agreement to list, not a listing agreement. There's a difference. And if that's what you're after here, you may want to present that sort of a document to the person who's sort of holding the bag here and say, look, I'm willing to do this work, but I want to have some assurance that if we proof this out and I do the work that I am, there's something in it for me as well. What do you guys think about that?
Well, no, he's already agreed that he would list with us once everything is said and done. And he had a court date a couple of days ago, so I was going to call him up to find out what happened with the court date. But then when I pulled up the tax records, I'm like, well, how did this happen? So I think contacting the county would probably be good. I mean, I could contact our title company as well, but that's a little bit beyond my scope because I'm an ISA. I'm not an agent.
Yeah, I heard all that. I heard that part. And all I'm saying is that's a verbal agreement. Right. And you heard it and he said it, but if you've got something in writing, at least it's some pressure on them to honor that agreement. And we don't want to see you go, chasing something and then end up not being able to get something out of it. So
it wouldn't be the first time.
And I have those conversations quite often from a strategy perspective to say, well, gee, Chuck, that sounds like I'm going to do a lot of work and there's no promise for me to get the business. And I would absolutely be putting it in writing that there's an agreement that at the end of getting all of this personal property and getting us to the listing part, that there's something written saying, yes, we're committed to having you represent us in the sale of this property. Start with that.
Even if it's not something that is going to potentially be fully legally enforceable and all of that, what you're doing is you're putting pressure on it that once it is done, they're not likely to go backwards on it because they'll assume you knew what you were doing, and that's why you gave them that agreement to deal with it, and that will protect you better, certainly protect you better than having nothing.
It's basically a letter of intent, I think is what we're saying. It could be really simple.
Letter of intent list. You know.
All right.
In exchange for you doing the work, I'm hereby committing that we agree to give you the listing and the opportunity to do what you need to go do to make money on this.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Sheila. All right. Got a couple of hands up. Come to you guys here in just a minute. I want to answer some of the people that have been patiently waiting that chatted some questions in. So Joe asked, he said, once in a while he reaches an heir and he's told that the house is upside down. So why would an heir agree to do a short sale? Are you missing anything? This question comes up periodically, and it's a situation where many times there is no incentive for them to come with you as a listing agent or an investor. Some people don't want to see their loved one's house go into foreclosure, and they will work on a short sale with the hope, it's kind of an off chance, but the hope that maybe the bank will pay them for doing a short sale versus a foreclosure. That normally works better when someone's living in the house. But otherwise, you're just kind of leaning on someone to maybe just do it because they don't want their mom's house to go into foreclosure. They have a little bit of pride in it, and they'd rather work with the bank to get out without being upside down. It doesn't hurt their credit at all unless they're on the loan somehow. So in a lot of cases, Joe, they're not going to work with you. There's not a whole lot of incentive. You can always present the option, hey, if you just don't want to see your family's house go to foreclosure, you'd rather do a short sale, we can get it done for you without a whole lot of involvement from you. We might, and I would make sure that it's a hard might. We might even get you a little bit of payment for cooperating with a short sale instead of a foreclosure. If you're willing to go down that path, I can help you. If not, you can let it go because there's not a lot of financial incentive for you to list with me. Okay.
And Bruce, if I could add to that, as most of you know, my wife's done a couple thousand short sales over the years. She has a short sale company. I don't think we've ever seen a case where you get the $3,000 of the relocation money is for relocating, and that person's already in their final location. So I think it's highly unlikely they'll get the money, but it is surprising how often the heirs are emotionally attached to the property, and they just don't want to see it go to disrepair. Also, you might point out to them, it's not a typical short sale where there's a whole bunch of paperwork. They don't need financials from a deceased person. So really the only thing the heir has to provide is proof that they're the executor and sign a permission to release information, 2 pieces of paper, and they're done. So it's a relatively easy process compared to a regular short sale, but I think it's very, very unlikely they'll actually get any relocation money. And if they don't want to do it for the right thing, there's no point in pushing them. They'll probably either want to or they won't. And you're not going to push them into doing it because there is not a real financial incentive. You're correct. Of course, I guess the disclaimer there, it's highly unlikely, but if there were a lot of other estate assets in the estate and it was upside down, I think in most cases it is legally possible they could go after the other assets of the estate, although I don't think it hardly ever happens.
Yeah.
You have to really be aware that they legitimately are upside down. And what I mean by that is a lot of times they may be way behind in their payments and, can't get in front of them. So they're assuming that, that falls under the category of upside down. They missed 6 payments and the bank's beating on the door or whatever. And the reality is there may be equity in that house. With what's happened in the market in the last X amount of years, depending on how long the house has been there, how long the mortgage has been in place, there may be money in it they don't even know is there. So be darn sure that there's a clear understanding about what the upside down means. Does it mean that, there's legitimately no equity in it, or are they just way behind in the mortgage and the bank's beating them up? Because if there's equity in it, there's a bunch of other options or at least some other options that may be available.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If there are assets, it's probably worth it just to protect themselves to go through a short sale. As Jim said, many times the bank is not going to come after the loss by doing a foreclosure, but if they did, they might be able to attach those other assets, especially if they're still in probate. So short selling that property and getting the loss potentially waived or negotiated way down would be a much better way to protect any additional assets that might be sitting there. Okay. All right. Perfect. Next question is, Arrington, how much should you be spending on marketing? And I'm sorry, I started laughing right when I saw that. Oh, man. So my answer is, how long is a rope? You could spend what you want on marketing. The more you spend effectively, okay. And I want everyone to recognize that what works for one person in one market and what works on one prospective prospect may not always work on another. So when you market, you always want to evaluate what is working in that marketing every 3 to 6 months and make adjustments to your marketing. I've been doing this for 8-9 years, and I've changed my letters every 6 months for 8 or 9 years. I don't change them all, but I tweak and adjust certain letters. So I want you guys definitely recognizing that you need to be adjusting. As a general rule of thumb, what I want you guys doing is figuring out how much a piece of business costs you. All right, that's where you need to start. And you're going to speculate at first. Okay. And I'm going to throw not my number out. I've thrown my number out on podcasts before, but I'm going to throw a number out here really quickly. And let's just say that for every lead that comes in, you put a mailing plan together. And that mailing plan says that every lead, if you never take a lead out of your campaign, which you absolutely will take leads out of a mailing campaign, but if you never did, you would spend, let's just hypothetically say, $8 per lead to mail them for a 6-month campaign. If you have an ISA, you might say, I'm going to add $4 per lead to call them for 6 months. You want to figure out what your average cost per lead is. And now you kind of know what you're going to spend on a lead. Maybe that's $13 a lead, something like that. Okay. It's different for everybody. Depends on the how many leads you have. So once I figure that out, I just simply divide it by my conversion rate. And that's how much a piece of business cost me. And so you need to figure this out. I'm going to do a video here really soon. I built some slides and just never shot the video. So really soon, I'm going to do a video that's going to show you guys how a piece of business might cost you about $800. So at this point, you just want to look at your campaign and say, how many times do I want to spend $800 to get a deal? All right. And if you want to get 3 deals a month, then guess what? You're going to spend $2,400 to get 3 deals a month once you know your numbers, or at least once you have estimated your numbers to start with. If you want to get 2 deals, you're going to spend $1,600. If you want to get 1 deal, you're going to spend $800. So you got to figure out how much a piece of business is going to cost you to acquire first. And when I do this in a new niche, I am going to always speculate. I'm always going to base it on like a 2% conversion rate and a 6-month conversion timeline. And I'm going to figure out how much money I need to spend to get that deal in 6 months. And then I'll just spend that amount of money every time I want a deal in 6 months, by the way. All right. That's the formula with probate. It's going to take an average of 6 months to get a deal. You don't drop $800 today. You're dropping it little by little over time to get that business. So I'll put a video out in the next week. I've got it pretty much teed up. I finally got my green screen behind me. So be on the lookout for an email coming from me soon. All right.
Well, one of the other considerations, and just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, and I know we're running short on time with 2 hands raised, but would you say that, because we have both investors and agents on the call now, Bruce, would you say that it's less expensive to get a listing than it is for a wholesale deal? And when I say wholesale deal, an investment deal, that would be a buy and hold rehab or wholesale property.
Yeah, it's less expensive, a little bit less money that you're going to earn, but a little bit less to acquire the deal too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's an important clarification. When you say deal, it can be whatever type of deal you are pursuing, whether you're in, working as an agent or as an investor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good point. Awesome. I'm not sure how that was devil's advocate. Maybe some clarification. All right.
Devilish guy.
Great. All right. We got some hands up. By the way, guys, I've got a class that I start here in 2 minutes. I'll run a little bit long, but I'm probably going to dip out after a question or so. Tamia, would you unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Okay, so I got a call from a seller yesterday, and it's a probate case, and it's the petitioner or administrator, and the house is about to be foreclosed. It goes to auction on March 7th, and they've already received the certified letter from the foreclosing attorney. He's interested to know if we can pull like a Hail Mary and purchase the house at the last minute. He's not received his letters of administration. They're still waiting to hear back from the judge. I just wanted to see if there was a way that this can be done in regards to a purchase and sale agreement, or if there's like a creative solution that could potentially be done.
Jim, can you take that?
Yeah, the only contact me after this call, just Jim@alltheleads.com.
Okay.
We have a we know of someone that can stop sales. Basically, you'd have to have someone file. Has there been an executor appointed yet or not?
No executor has been appointed and he hasn't received any letters of administration.
Yeah, it is possible to file a bankruptcy pro se, but it's pretty complicated. It's not easy. But give me a call and I'll walk you through that. It's a very specialized, and I'll give you a phone number of someone you can talk to.
Okay, you said email you or call you?
Yeah, email me if you would, jim@alltheleads.com. I've got a call right after this, and when that's over, I'll call you back.
And that's JIM at all the leads, correct?
Yeah, and just give me the best phone number to call you at.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yep.
Bye.
So really short answer is you can stop that sale in a lot of situations. So you could get it done. Jim will help out. All right. Thanks, Tamia. Let's go to George real quick. George, you are up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
I just have a very quick question. I hope it's a quick one. I heard on this on the podcast one time that it's easy to get another phone number or a couple of other phone numbers that you can use in your calling campaign. How do you go about doing that?
So if you're one of the platforms that I like to use is AirCall.
AirCall?
Yeah, AirCall. AirCall is cheap if you have a bunch of people on the team. So a seat's $40, but they have a 3-seat minimum. So if you are operating a team or in an office with other people that want phone numbers, you might want to look at AirCall. It's an extension, and whatever website you're on, all the phone numbers turn into clickable links. So I use that all the time. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that and take on 3 seats and a bunch of different phone numbers, maybe look at Line 2. So LINE and the number 2. It's a voice over IP dialer. It's going to cost you about $18, $19 a month. And it's an app on your phone. Oh, I just dropped my phone. So it's an app that goes on your phone, and you can pull it up and dial through it and receive calls just like you do your regular dial pad on your phone. And you can get as many numbers as you want. The other way to do it is just go add a line onto your account, get a little flip phone and add a line on your account for $10 a month. So those are kind of 3 different ways. AirCall. You could always get a power dialer as well. A lot of times if you go to a power dialer like a Mojo or something like that, it might cost you $100 a month. But you'll have a power dialer that you can dial through and you'll get a phone number with it. So those are 4 different ways that you can get phone numbers.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Daniel, you are up last. Go ahead and unmute yourself. If by the way, guys, if I've missed you all, I'm going to wrap up with Daniel and then I'm going to jump off, and I apologize. We'll get to your questions maybe next week, or if you have an urgent question, chat our support team or call our support team by just going to alltheleads.com and we can get your questions answered. All right, Daniel, go ahead.
So I've been doing this for 2 months, kind of 3 months. I've done 3 months worth of leads from you guys, and I've done mailers. I've done some cold calls, and I'm getting really better at handling objections. And I just feel like they're in pain, and it's more of them complaining. They're not attacking me. So I'm getting better at like turning it around and really leading with value. But I've seen recently that there's some people out there that are like, when they send a postcard out, it's a QR code for an ebook. I am kind of one of those virtuous people. I don't think people read as much as they used to. Is this something that you see works in probate, like something that could set me apart? Or do you think people are so busy, the attorney holds their hand on the legality and then we fill in the gaps after that? Or is like maybe like some kind of ebook? Do I have imposter syndrome? Do you need to talk me out of the imposter syndrome? Or like, I don't know what
you do. Yes. Okay. So absolutely, you are kind of overthinking it. However, you're still on the right path with the way that you're thinking. I love ebooks. I can tell you that generally an ebook is a better offer to make verbally. if I was making an offer with a QR code through mail, I would offer something that's much easier to consume, because people don't really want to get a lot of a pamphlet with lots of information, and they're already reading a letter or a postcard. So I would offer something more like maybe a checklist, or 5 ways to save to save money in probate, or 5 ways to make more money on something, just something much shorter through mail. Now, those of you that are calling, I've seen a lot of people have success by offering an ebook or something like that, with a verbal offer. But on a piece of mail, I would offer something easier for them to receive and consume. I don't want them to think, oh God, I don't have time to read that. I want them going, oh, that sounds simple and that sounds valuable. I could get that and I could read it in 5 minutes and be better off for it. So maybe offer an evaluation, a free evaluation to take to courts, offer 5 steps to do something, offer a checklist, anything like that.
Perfect. I just thought since All the Leads does not offer that, it probably doesn't work. So yeah.
Well, what we do offer is going to be that checklist, and that would absolutely be something that you get in PDF form. I mean, you could have that be the lead magnet, and then the upsell could then be a created ebook, right? That would be the top 7 inheritance draining mistakes that every executor makes, you know, those types of things, but you want to get them into the funnel. And I'm a huge proponent of getting their best email address. So even on those prospecting calls, I mean, you can prospect saying, hey, we're offering a free gift for every brand new executor here in local county. And, you know, what's your best email address? I'll send it over. It's a checklist. It's going to organize all your activities so you can make sure that you don't miss any steps as you get started off on this process. You know, we help people settle estates easier than doing it alone. We just wanted to offer this free gift, you know, that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, the world is your oyster on being able to create and give offer. And the key importance is that our objective is to deliver value through their mailbox via direct mail. And that's going to be one touch point, because absolutely our target demographic, likely being age 50 plus, is going to want to have something physically in their hands. Now, we've gone through the last 3 years that has made people a little bit more accustomed to scanning a code like that. So absolutely, I'd give it a test, man.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. I think Bruce had to jump off to get to his training call. And Roger Lacey, I saw you had your hand up, and you've always got good stories. Please come on next week and we'll start off with you. We'll give you the amount of time that you deserve. He put his hand down, so I think he realized we were running out of time. But as I always do, I want to thank each of you for being here today. I want to particularly thank those that actively participated. I want to challenge each of you, take one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Same time next Thursday. Take care.